Ya diddy da diddy da da da. 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 Die 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 die. Die 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 die. Here we go. Yeah, diddy da diddy da da da. 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 Die 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 die. 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 Die 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 die. Die 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 die. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. One more time. Yeah, diddy da diddy da da da. 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 Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ma tovu o alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu o alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Yadadai, 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 yadadai.
Shabbat Shalom and welcome everybody. I am Rabbi Javier Carapan and I am joined this morning by Rabbi Monica Kleiman and Leslie Zucker and our technical team. Special thanks to our BOW committee for bringing us beyond our walls. Please let us know if you are technically inclined and would like to be part of our team. This morning, we're also welcoming our bat mitzvah, Ruby Wexler, and her family and friends. Welcome, everybody. For those of you here in person, and those at home as well, this morning, Ruby will become a bat mitzvah, and she will be doing three things, among others. She will be leading us in prayer. She will be delivering a Dvar Torah, some words of wisdom on the Torah and the Haftorah portions, and then she will read from the Torah scroll and be called up to the Torah for the first time and read the Haftarah. We call all those things one, so there's three things, but it's a lot. And as you know, Ruby has been preparing for this longer than anybody else. But we're here, and we're glad that we made it, and you all can join us. Our prayer book opens from right to left, and we're using the pages in the square brackets. So if you're looking at page 290, it will be in the square brackets. If you have two sets of numbers. We read everything together, so there are no responsive readings, so I invite you to read. Most of our readings are in English, so Ruby will be leading some of those. Feel free to join her as she goes through the prayers. We ask you to refrain from taking photos or videos during the service, so this might be a good time to put your devices on vibrate, which I think we all have.
God always calls.
Right, yes, just in case. There, we got it. And also, please, no applause. That's you can applause in the back when you leave, and you can give kisses and hugs. I don't know how comfortable you're about this, but you ask Ruby first. And please go ahead and then silence all your electronic devices. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, the link to the prayer book pages and other information will be found in the comment section. If you're joining us on our virtual sanctuary, the link to the PDF is above the player, and all other links are in your e-news. And if you're joining us on Facebook Live, we invite you to say hello by typing Shabbat Shalom and tell us where you're watching from. And of course, if you are here as part of Ruby's celebration, maybe you can leave some comments there. We can then share them with Ruby and her family. If you have any issues while you are watching our service, we invite you to take now this number, 913-303-1134. That's TAL, our technical assistance line. And you just text that number, and one of our docents will get back to you and will help you get back on whatever you were before. We continue together on page 291. Page 291 in the middle of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware we would lack the strength to sustain life before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofe chol basar umafli la'asot.
Elohai neshama shenatata vi teorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata vi teorahi. Shama venachata bi teorahi teorahi Elohai neshama shenatata bi teorahi Elohai neshama shenatata bi teorahi.
We continue together on page 306 as we join our voices in the closing lines of Psalm 150. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol hashama tenaleya, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hashama tenaleya, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
We'd like to invite Ruby to join us on the bima, and also like to invite Rabbi Kleiman to join us for this next section of the service.
We will continue on page 312 with Chatzi Kaddish.
Yid Gadol v'Yid Kadash Shemei Rabbah Ve'alma Divrach v'Rutei v'Yamlich Malchutei B'chayechon u'vyomechon U'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala U'bizman Kariv Ve'yimeru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alam u'almei almaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yila'ar V'yitramam V'yinaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Dekidusha B'richu La'ela Mikol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiran Be'alma V'yimeru Amen.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai
HaMevorach, HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach, Le'olam
Va'ed. We turn to the next page, one more. We read together on page 314 at the top of the page.
The world is sunlight, restoring the soul, rejoicing the heart, bringing light to the eyes, more welcome than gold, a Torah from heaven. I have no light to give the morning. My Torah, my special human gift, is words. As I bring my words forth from silence, welcome them, you who redeems the sun from darkness. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMe'orot.
Page 317.
O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one unifier of humanity. We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully, we recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel. And joyfully, we remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we would turn to you and find purpose. May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds, and their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael, be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malachuto Le'olam Ba'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'chayu ha'devarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'beitecha, uvlechtecha v'derech, uvshochtecha uvkumecha, ukshartam la'ot al yadecha, v'chayu l'totofot b'neinecha, uchtabtam al mezuzot beitecha, v'visharecha, lemam t'yizkeru, v'asitem mikol mitzvotai, v'hiyatem kadoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hoetzeti echem me'eretz Mitzrayim, l'chayot lechem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem emet.
Amen.
We continue on page 321, reading together in English.
Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home no more, to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Mi chamocha be'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, no ra tehilot, dosei pele, no ra tehilot, dosei pele, shira hadashah, shivahu geulim, leshimcha al safat hayom. Yachad kulam, hodu behim lichu, ve'amru. Adonai imloch, Adonai imloch, le'olam va'ed. Zur Yisrael, kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, uvdechinu lecha, Yehuda be'Yisrael. Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Adonai Sifatai Tiftach, Ufiach Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chaste Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, Le'man Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Metim atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayei Metim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar. Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Meimit,
tzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata l'chayot metim, baruch ata Adonai, mechayei hametim. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, חפשו ביד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ, כבודו. אדיר, אדירנו, אדוני, אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומות. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו ומלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישענו, ורחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושיבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue our voices in song as we remain standing, if you are able, on page 328.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ישראל, עוד תהיה לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We continue together in English in the middle of page 329.
The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat we try to become attuned to holiness and time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time. to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat.
We continue on page 319.
It's actually 334. I apologize.
Yes, it's like, wait a minute. 334 with Sim Shalom, our song of peace.
Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chen B'Chesed V'Rachamim V'Rachamim Aleinu, Be'akol Yisrael, Be'akol Yisrael Amecha, B'Rachaminu Yortzinu Kulanu Chechad, Be'or Panecha, Ki Be'or Panecha Netata Lanu, Adonai Eloheinu. Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chen B'Chesed V'Rachamim V'Rachamim Aleinu, Be'akol Yisrael, Be'akol Yisrael Amecha, Torah Ta'im, Be'ahavat Hesed, Be'ahavat Hesed, Tzedakah Rachamim, Be'layim Ve'shalom. Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chen B'Chesed V'Rachamim V'Rachamim Aleinu, Be'akol Yisrael, Be'akol Yisrael Amecha.
I invite you to continue the rest of your Amidah section, this part of the service, silently. You may use the words that are printed in our prayer book or that which you are carrying in your own heart on this beautiful Shabbat morning. And when you have concluded your prayer, I invite you to return to your seat. Say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
just a moment, we'll continue with the service for the reading of the Torah, which will begin on page 362. And for that part of the service, we are going to have a lot of involvement from members of our congregation and mostly from Ruby's family. So first, I would like to invite the Ark openers to join me up here on the bima, Frank and Linda Taggart and Scott and Tony Taggart. Come up, please. And then for the generation to generation, I would like to invite Lou Wexler, Mary Ann Wexler, of course, Randy and Sheila and Ruby to join us up here. Everybody come up. This is your cue. All right. If you're able, we invite you to stand on page 362 for Ein Kamocha.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein k'maasecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai himloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz lamo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom, avarachamim, eitiva v'rtzoncha et Zion, tibnei cholmot Yerushalayim, tibnei cholmot Yerushalayim, ki v'cha levad bataknu, melech elam v'nisa adon olamim, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udavar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, le'amo Yisrael v'kadushato.
It is our tradition to symbolically and physically pass the Torah and its teaching from one generation to the next. And this scroll holds a special place in the history of our congregation and of the Wexlers as well, because a few years ago, everybody in our congregation who was around then participated in the writing of the Torah scroll. And I am told that Ruby and her family were honored to write the letter Resh, which is the letter that begins her Hebrew name, Ruby's Hebrew name, which is also the same letter in English. And the Hebrew word that comes to mind right away when you think about the way Resh is the Hebrew word Rosh, which means head, except that is used in Hebrew in many other contexts. For instance, when we begin a new month, we call it Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month. When we begin a new year in just a few weeks, we call it Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of a new year. And also the Torah begins with that word, Bereshit, in the beginning. And we often say this to our families and to our bar bat mitzvahs, and it is really what we mean, which is that this is not the end. Although it feels like the conclusion of something, it's really the beginning. This is the beginning of Ruby's adult life as a Jewish individual. And this is why we have you here and why we're having a celebration, because really this is the Rosh of your life, the beginning of your life as a Jew. So we're going to pass this and celebrate this beginning from one generation to the next. And Mazel Tov.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo Galu Adonai Iti Unevom Lema Shemo Yachdav Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishacharu Le'har Kodesh Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishacharu Le'har Kodesh Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishacharu Le'har Kodesh Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishacharu Le'har Kodesh Al Shosha Devarim Al Shosha Devarim Al Shosha Devarim Olam Olam Obed Al Shosha Devarim Al Shosha Devarim Al Shosha Devarim Olam Olam Obed Al HaTorah Ve'al Avodah Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim Al HaTorah Ve'al Avodah Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim Al Shosha Devarim Al Shosha Devarim Al Shosha Devarim Olam Olam Omed
As I mentioned at the very beginning, there are three things, major things that Ruby will be doing. One was leading us in prayer, which she's done beautifully. And now it's time for some words of wisdom. This is her first speech about the Torah portion. Then she will give one about the Haftorah later on. All right, you can stand in the middle. Let me make sure that this is closer to you so we can all hear you. I think you're good. Go for it.
Shabbat Shalom. The only thing that Amazon couldn't deliver last year was my speech. So here I go. My Torah portion, Vayikra, outlines the laws for sacrifices administered by the Israelites in the proper worship in the temple and how they were to express their loyalty to God. The first type of sacrifice that is discussed is the offering of well-being. This offering was brought by a person who had something to celebrate. Today, we probably refer to this as a peace offering, in that it is motivated by a sense of being at peace with one's family and neighbors. In contrast to the sacrificial offering of well-being, Vayikra discusses the purification offerings and restitution offerings, which are intended to seek atonement and forgiveness from God. The first of these offerings involves sins that are committed unintentionally or unknowingly. Today we say that ignorance of the law is no excuse, as police officers often say when you are stopped for speeding. Right, Jackson? The next of these unintentional acts requiring sacrificial offerings is the sin of omission, which is failing to do something in which the law requires to be done. We cannot just sit idly by and allow something wrong to happen. This involves someone's failure to come forward and testify or to give information. The next of the sins requiring sacrificing is the sin of trespass. This includes acting deceitfully in the matter of theft or cheating another person. It also involves lying under oath. This requires full restitution payment. My Torah portion also discusses what happens if the appointed priest has incurred guilt. The blame then falls upon the entire community. In the Jewish tradition, young children often begin their Jewish education with Vayikra. You might ask, wouldn't it make better sense to start the education with Genesis Book 1 or the creation? It is explained that children are pure and therefore they should study the laws of purity. Vayikra teaches children that life involves sacrifices. I think that we can all look back at sacrifices that we made and sacrifices that have been made for us. Over the past year and a half, we have been restricted to social distancing. Needless to say, this has had a huge impact on me. I could handle washing my hands, which I probably needed anyway, and I could handle wearing a mask. I didn't have to wear makeup. But being isolated from my friends and relatives was a major sacrifice. The Torah teaches us, and almost all of the religions teach us proper behavior between our fellow human beings. Unfortunately, while being quarantined, we couldn't afford to be with each other. Our only contact with friends and family was on Zoom and driveway chats. I think all of us make sacrifices every day with our time. I'm often tasked with trying to make enough time to get my homework done, go to soccer practices, complete chores, while also maintaining my personal life status. You could say that soldiers fighting wars make the ultimate sacrifice by sacrificing their own life. What can we learn from today's Torah portion, and why is it so important today? We no longer offer animal or grain sacrifices. Instead of sacrifices, today we confirm our relationship with God and reflections upon redemptions and forgiveness through prayers to offer our connection with God. We must still be aware that we have daily sacrifices to make and still should be aware of the acceptance of our responsibility for intentional and unintentional acts in our lives.
We now continue with the reading of the Torah. We are reading from the book of Leviticus, chapter 1, verses 1 through 17. For those of you who follow the Torah portions, this is not the Torah portion for this Shabbat. This Torah portion for this Shabbat is the second Torah portion of the book of Deuteronomy. However, the reason we're doing this is because we had to postpone, for obvious reasons, Ruby's bat mitzvah. So we are celebrating it today, reading a slightly different Torah portion. And I was going to tell you later, but it's great how you explain it, because Leviticus, with all the sacrifices, is not an easy Torah portion to deal with, and you've done beautifully. So if you want to follow along, we have it in the red book, the fat book you may have in front of you in the pews. That's called our Chumash, and it could be found on page 756 if you want to follow. And also in the program, you will see short description of the Torah and Haftorah portions. So many ways for you to participate in this part of the service. But all this part is going to be in Hebrew, because that's really how we worked and how Ruby spent a lot of time working on this particular piece so she could read from the Hebrew. And for those of you who have never seen this, the Hebrew here does not have any vowels. It's just consonants. So it's even harder than what you may see in our prayer books that has letters and consonants and vowels there. The little dots are the vowels. So if you're following it alone and would like to look at the Torah blessings, we also have them in our prayer book, and they could be found on page 368. So I know a lot of things to have at hand, but you can choose one or the other, or just listen and hear the reading. For the first Aliyah, I would like to invite Lou and Mary Ann Wexler, Ruby's grandparents. Ya'amadu la Aliyah harishona. Welcome. So show him what you're reading at the very beginning.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Vayikra el Moshe, v'yadaber Adonai, elav me'ohel, moed lamor, daber el b'nei Yisrael, v'amar ta Elohem, Adam ki yakriv michem korban la Adonai, min habhema, min habekar, Umin hatzon takrivu et korbanchem im ola korbano min habakar zechar tamim yakrivenu el petach ohel moed yakriv oto lirtzono lifnei Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayolam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
V'samach.
Sorry. You have been practicing this for so long.
You'll get there. It's coming. It's coming. The second Aliyah, I would like to invite Hannah and Jackson Wexler, sister and brother of Ruby. Ya'amdu la Aliyah hashni'ah.
Baruch et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein HaTorah.
Amen.
V'samach yado al rosh ha'olah v'nirtza lo l'chaper ulav v'shachat et ben habakar lifnei Adonai v'hikrivu b'nei Aharon hakohanim et hadam v'zarku et hadam al hamizbeach saviv asher petach ohel moed v'hivshit et ha'olah v'nita ota lintacha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein HaTorah.
Amen.
For the third Aliyah, it's our tradition to invite one of our congregants, and I have the honor to invite one of our congregants who it's the volunteer par excellence. Those of you who've been watching our streaming for the last 16 months, the man behind the camera is going to be in front of the camera on this special Shabbat. I'd like to invite Dave Zucker. Ya'amod la'aliyah laTorah. You don't have something to control the camera.
It's cognitive Aviva. Where are we? Oh, good. You didn't pick too tall of a one. Thanks. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. V'natnu b'nei Aharon hakohen esh al hamizbeach v'arku etzim al ha'esh v'arku b'nei Aharon hakohanim et hanetachim et harosh ve'et hapader al ha'etzim asher al ha'esh asher al hamizbeach v'kirvo uchra'av yirchatz b'mayim v'hiktir hakohen et hakol hamizbecha ola isha re'ach nihawach la'adonai.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'tochenu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. For the fifth Aliyah, I would like to invite Randy and Sheila Wexler, Ruby's parents. Ya'amdu la'aliyah ha'reviyit.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Ve'im min hatzon korbano min hakshavim o min ha'etzim le'ola zechar tamim yakribenu v'shachat oto al yarech hamizbeach tzafona lifnei Adonai v'zarku b'nei Aharon hakohanim et damo al hamizbeach saviv v'nitach oto linetachav Ve'et Rosho, ve'et Pedro, ve'arech hakohen, otam al ha'etzim, asher al ha'esh, asher al hamizbeach, ve'hakerev, ve'hikra'ayim, yirchatz b'mayim, ve'hikriv hakohen, et hakol, ve'hiktir hamizbecha, ola, hu isha re'ach nihawach la'adonai.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'tochenu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Station. All right, Ruby, I'll take this for you for right now so you can see what. He's going to call you off the fancy thing.
Ta'amod Rubina bat Ruven Yaakov bat Mitzvah.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Ve'im min ha'of ola korbano la'adonai v'hikriv min ha'torim o min b'nei hayona et korbano v'hikrivu hakohen el hamizbeach umalak et rosho v'hiktir hamizbecha v'nimtza damo al kir hamizbeach v'hesir et morato, v'notzata, v'hi shlich ota, etzel hamizbeach, kedma, al hakom, hadashen, v'shisa oto, bichna favlo, yavdil, v'hiktir oto, hakohen, hamizbecha, al ha'etzim asher al ha'esh, ola, hu ishabrach nihawach la'adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Mazel tov. Congratulations.
So while we have the Sefer Torah out of the ark and in our midst, this is a time we offer a Misha Berach for healing, a prayer for healing. So for those of you watching on Facebook Live, I invite you to share the names of those you are thinking of this morning, those in need of healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. And for those who are in person in our sanctuary this morning, I invite you to share the name out loud of someone whom you are thinking of who could benefit from our prayers for healing. And on their behalf, we sing together the words found on page 371, our Misha Berach prayer. Misha Berach Avotenu Vekol HaBeracha L'Imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Vekol HaBeracha L'Avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. I invite our congregation to rise as we lift the Torah. Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael, al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai.
We continue now for a prayer for our country. That is on page 376 in the middle of the page, beginning with the words, O Guardian. And I would like to invite for that Hal and Kathy Shapiro. You got it.
That's a little bigger. I can see that.
Yeah, please.
I can even see that.
Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry, and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing band, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who we are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and in spirit. Amen.
Would like to invite Debbie Entine for her prayer for the state of Israel. That is on page 377.
Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
To invite Linda Rubin on page 376 to offer a prayer for our congregation. And for those of you who don't know Linda, she is one of our teachers and has been for the last 2 years Ruby's tutor. I hope you bonded.
I'm telling you. We bonded
You got time, though.
on FaceTime. It was great. For our congregation. Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us: love of Torah, devotion of prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha b'yirah da'avod.
Would like to invite Ruby back to the Bima as she will give us thank yous, some introduction to the Haftarah, and then the blessings and the reading. So, actually got everything. Got everything?
I want to thank you all for being here today to share in my happiness on becoming a bat mitzvah. I want to especially thank those that have traveled far to be with me today. I know that many of you have never been to a bat mitzvah, and I hope you all are enjoying it because this is a very big day for me and my family. I want to thank my parents for giving me support and being role models for my religious education, I know that they have gone out of their way to drive me to Hebrew school and my lessons, and thanks to both sets of grandparents for setting an example of close family ties. I'd like to thank my sister Hannah for being there for me when I needed her. Not only is she beautiful and smart, she is kind and thoughtful to others, and she leaves behind a great wardrobe to borrow from. She has set the bar quite high for me. I'd also like to thank my brother Jackson for setting an example of commitment and dedication and always keeping me on par. I would like to thank all of my religious school teachers. I would like to especially thank Linda Rubin for being my bat mitzvah tutor and preparing me for today. The Vayikra Haftarah is from the book of Isaiah. It can be broken down into about 3 different parts. The first portion of the Haftarah deals where the complaint was made to the children of Israel, failing to worship God and not following the rituals of sacrifice, and failing to bring offerings. Worse still, as opposed to bringing what they were supposed to, they burdened God with their sins. Following the complaints of the Israelites, the second portion then offers a new beginning, saying, "Wipe your transgressions away and remember your sins no more." He then mentions the sins of our earliest ancestors. He then discusses his plan to forgive and purify them, and bring about a time when Jews would return to God and once again be faithful to God. I am the first and I am the last, and there is no God but me. The third portion of the Haftarah actually deals with the worthlessness of idol worship, and that they were crafting idols out of ordinary materials and then giving them religious significance. He said that idols had no purpose. False idols had no wit or judgment. They could not see and could not think. He asked whether one could honestly bow down to a block of wood. The conclusion of the Haftarah is an invitation to come back and our need to pay attention to God, the only real source of forgiveness. I believe that this Haftarah is relevant in today's time, for there are many types of idols that many of us symbolically worship in different forms, and instead we should try to fulfill our lives by our faith and mitzvot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'retzav v'divreihem hana'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Amen. Ve'ata Shema Yaakov Avdi Vayisrael Bachartivo Ko Amar Adonai Osecha Ve'yozarecha Mi Beten Yazarecha Al Tira Avdi Yaakov Bishurun Bachartivo Ki Etzok Mayim Al Zameh Ve'nozlim Al Yabasha Etzok Ruhi Al Zarecha Uvirchati Al Ze'etzaecha V'tzamhu bevein hatzir ka'al ravim al yivle mayim ze yomar la'adonai ani v'ze yikra v'shem Yaakov v'ze yichtov yado la'adonai uv'shem Yisrael yechaneh ko amar Adonai melech Yisrael v'goalo Adonai zeva'ot ani rishon Va'ani Aharon, Umi Baladai, Ve'ain Elohim, Umi Chamoni, Yikra, V'yagideha, V'yarchecha, Li Mishumi, Am Olam, Ve'otiot, Va'asher, Tavona, Yagidu, Ba'amo, Al Tifhadu, Va'al Tirchu, Halo Me'az, Hashmaticha v'higati v'atem Adam ha'esh Eloha mi baladai v'ein zor bal adati. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzor kol haolamim, tzadik b'chol hadorot, ha'el hana'eman, ha'omer be'oseh, hamdaber umkayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al haTorah, v'al ha'avodah, v'al ha'nevi'im, v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'limnucha, l'chavod u'tifaret. Al hakol, Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, umvarchim ota, yitbarach shimcha, befi kol haytami be'olam va'ed, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha'shabbat.
Would like to invite Ruby's parents for a blessing, some words of wisdom at this occasion, and some.
Ruby, there have been lots of moments that we have been proud of you. Your last straight A report card, the game-winning soccer goal that you scored in the final minute, your very first TikTok, and yes, you were ahead of your time. But I don't think that I've ever been more proud of you as I am today. Not because you led today's service so profoundly. You did. But because today you make a pledge to God and yourself that you will continue your Jewish education and remain involved in the Jewish community. Ruby, you are a young woman with many great talents, ranging from your artistic creativity, your fierce competitiveness on the soccer pitch, and your knack for entertaining and making us all laugh. Perhaps what we are most amazed with is your desire to always want to learn more. You have already proven yourself to be a kind and compassionate person. Judaism considers chesed, or loving kindness, to be some of the most important values to strive for. In fact, acts of loving kindness are so much a part of Jewish law that the word mitzvah is informally used to mean any good deed. We are commanded to help those in need, both in physical and financial need. At first, we wondered, why this Torah portion? Your Torah portion is from Leviticus, the rule book of the Torah. And although Leviticus lacks the great stories of Genesis and Exodus, those who know you well and understand you would probably agree that this is your book. It provides structure and purpose to life's challenges and inconsistencies. And as so you eloquently pointed out this morning, the year 2020 had many parallels. Ruby, you come from a Holocaust family. Your great-grandfather, Zadie, endured a lot of hardship in order to escape the Nazi death camps to make it to this country. And speaking of sacrifices today, you could say that your Zadie made the ultimate sacrifice to leave his family behind in Poland to escape the war. Of course, if it was not for his good fortune, our family would not have endured. Our message for you today is quite simple, just as history has taught us over and over again. Treat everyone you encounter how you yourself would like to be treated. The golden rule. Treat everyone as equals, and remember that we are all God's creation. You have a wonderful heritage with people like your mother, your grandparents, even your aunts and uncles as examples to emulate. It is about respect for and pride in your heritage and living an ethical life with honor, integrity, and a little laughter along the way. Our promise to you today is to always be there for you, both in good times and in bad. Our prayer for you today is a lifetime filled with much love, happiness, and health. A bat mitzvah, among other things, celebrates the transition from childhood to adulthood. Today, you formally become a woman in the eyes of the Jewish community. As you have now entered your teen years, you will undoubtedly be tempted to give in to peer pressures. As you go through life, you will see many different doors open up, and you will need to make very difficult decisions. Always remember who you are, where you come from, and where you're going. Choose wisely. Everyone makes mistakes. Mistakes are not bad. They are lessons learned. Failure is not a crime. Failure to learn from failure is. As your Uncle Jamie so eloquently said, surround yourself with all that is good, beautiful, and true. Look around this room this morning. Today is all about family, friends, and community, and the passing of these traditions and values down from generation to generation. Today does not mark the end of your Jewish learning, but instead marks the beginning of your life as a responsible Jewish adult. We have no doubt that you will handle this responsibility with the same dedication and chutzpah that we have come to love about you. We love you, Ruby, and we are proud of what you've accomplished today and always. Mazel tov.
We now continue with the service for returning the Torah scroll to the Ark on page 374. I invite you, if you're able, to stand and join us. All right, they are openers, yes, thank you. Sorry.
Ashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadish, Chadish Yameinu Chadish Yameinu Kekedem.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha, v'yaseh lecha shalom, v'yaseh lecha shalom, v'yaseh lecha shalom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Mazel tov, congratulations to Ruby and her family. And as I was mentioning when you were finishing the Torah reading, and your dad also mentioned, Leviticus could be a challenging kind of book because there are no stories, there are no like tales, nothing. It's basically sacrifices and then a lot of laws. And so that, that's a feared few weeks in the Jewish calendar by a lot of bar mitzvahs for centuries. But you explained it and got a beautiful lesson from the sacrifices that we all went through during the pandemic. But I wanted to add something, a different interpretation for you and everybody to think about. And the word that we use in Hebrew for sacrifices is the word korban. And the word korban comes from the Hebrew root kaf resh bet, which means to bring close or to come close. And that, I'm sure, is something we all did during the pandemic. Whether we wanted it or not, we all come close, much closer to our loved ones, to our families, because we kind of have to stay indoors. We couldn't go anywhere. And that, I think, brought us closer. I don't know if there are lots of silver linings to the pandemic, but maybe that was one, that we as families kind of worked together. It was a sacrifice both in that we gave things up and that we were brought together as we were spending those many weeks in very close quarters. The korban, in that sense, both reflects and reinforces our bonds to God and to each other. So the point of sacrifices in that sense are not to feed or bribe God, but to come close to God. And I think that we always have to keep in mind that a sacrifice is both things. It is something that we give up, but it's also an offering that we bring to God and to each other. And so as we move forward in life and you continue to grow, keep in mind always those two aspects of the sacrifices, something that we give up and something also, when we give it up, we're also offering it. I like it better. I like offering more than giving it up. Makes me feel that I'm doing something to help others. So that is a positive note that we can learn from this very, again, unrelatable readings about sacrifices. It is our tradition, our congregation, to have a member of our board to greet you and give you your gifts in representation of all our congregation. And I would like to invite Emily Kirstein, member of our Board of Trustees, who will do the presentations for today. And I'm going to leave this here. Thank
you. Kirstein, and I'm here on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the Weiner Religious School, and our entire congregation. I'm so delighted to be here today. This is an important occasion, not just for you, but your family and also your whole community. We look forward to your continued participation in our congregation as a young adult. We appreciate the sacrifices you've made this year, and thank you for your leadership and worship today. Please know that we care for you very much, and that Congregation Beth Torah will always be your home. We do have some gifts for you today. We have a Kiddush cup from the Beth Shalom gift shop. We have a book, Jewish Literacy by Rabbi Joseph Telushkin, a gift certificate from NIFTY that you can apply toward a future trip to Israel, and a certificate commemorating this important day. Congratulations, Mazel Tov to you and your entire family.
Thank you. Thank you. Now you can go back to your seat for a moment and Mazel Tov. We are now entering the closing section of our service. We begin this section with Aleinu Leshabeach. It's on page 586. If you are able, we invite you to rise and join us.
Aleinu Leshabeach Ladon HaKol, Latet Gedula Leotze Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kegoye Haratzot, Velo Samanu Kmishpachot Adama, Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem, Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Va'anachnu Korim, Umishtachavim umodim, Lifnei Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'ne'emar, V'haya Adonai, Lemelech al kol haaretz,
Vayom hahu, Yeh Adonai Echad.
Ushemo Echad.
As we prepare for our moment of remembrance, I invite you to turn to page 595. 595. Middle of the page, we read together, Yesh Kochavim. There are stars up above, so far away that we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. The memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the days that we remember. Just a moment, we will rise together as a congregation. We are observing the Shiva period for Drake Taylor, loved one of Ellen Merrill, and Marcia Lynn Yates Roberts, mother and mother-in-law of Darcy and Dan Hill, and grandmother of Harrison and Hunter. And on this Shabbat, we remember the following yortzes of members of our congregation: Manuel Altman, Patty Bastable, Theodore Berman, Eleanor Capson, Jerome Dribbin, Daniel Eliashar, Mary Fogel, Gussie Fritzen, Maribel Gidel, Paul Gidel, Lyubov Kapustin, Nathan Krasnopoler, Roth Landreth, Pam Lear, Saul Liverman, George Allen Mason, Isi Ozer, Estelle Parnez, Rosalia Penner, George Reedy, Sterling Ronai, Bess Rosentreater, Francis Surovsky Sandhouse, Eva Sandler, Mel Sains, Grace Shafran, Bernard Sherman, Betty Warady, Arnold Warshawski, and on the occasion of Ruby's bat mitzvah, we remember Sonia Cotton, Alan Entine, Ben Entine, Ike Entine, Rebecca Entine, Jerry Lappet, Hortense Lappet, Sarah Lappet, Rich Lloyd, Jamie Rupp, Joe Shaler, correct? Shaler, thank you. Tilly Shaler, Edna May Shorts, Frank Taggart Sr., Marge Taggart, Helen Wexler, and Sydney Wexler. Zichronam livracha, may the memories be for a blessing. Page 598, we invite you to rise as we, as a congregation, recite Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Itgadal v'itkadosh shemei Rabbah, be'alema divra chirute ve'yamlich malchute, bechayechon uvyamechon, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תוש בחתה ונחמתה, da amiran de alema vimbu amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael vimbu amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael vimbu amen. You may be seated.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Israel, ve'imru, amen.
Very short announcements. We would like to thank everyone who joined us on this Shabbat, who participated in our service. Special mazel tov to Ruby becoming bat mitzvah in her family. Thanks to Rabbi Kleiman and Leslie and our technical team for making our service possible. Following the service, we invite you to join Ruby's family, all of us, outside for Betty Ray's ice cream to celebrate Ruby's accomplishment. Feel free to stay and visit inside of the foyer as well if you would like. So I think we'll know if the food truck is out there or no. Did you get an update? Are they up there? The food truck is out there? They should be. Well, should. We don't have a camera seeing if the truck is there. Well, maybe it broke down.
What is wrong with you? Have faith, Rabbi. There will be ice cream.
I've been looking forward to this part, I tell you. I only had it once before another bat mitzvah, and I thought, well, I'll see if I can convince another family to do this.
It's handwritten at the bottom of the handbook, must have Betty Ray's ice cream.
So thank you, Ruby. Come up here, Ruby. We'd like to invite Ruby back. We will sing together Oseh Shalom on page 647, and then we will all join together in Hamotzi and Kiddush. If you are able, please stand and join us. Oseh Shalom.
Oh,
say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yaseh shalom. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael le'imru amen. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yaseh shalom. One more time. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yaseh shalom. It's right there. I didn't see it. Wonderful. All right. So we have it all. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Drink. Uncover the and lift up the challah. On your hands. With your hands. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Mazel
Shabbat
tov.
shalom. Take care of each other out there.
Shabbat shalom.